After becoming rather intimate with the ground, after a botched combat drop, I had a bit of a reckoning. I'm not very good at Arma. I get overwhelmed a bit too easily, and tend not to be great when it comes to paying attention for extended periods of time. In a battle, I'd probably be a liability. You see, YouTube is what I'm good at. And while it might be a while before I have the courage to accidentally shoot civilians again, I wasn't done with Arma, or rather, its community wasn't done with me. The men and women of the 12th Marine Division reached out to me and offered to have me tag along and document the rather ambitious military campaign they'd been participating in. I was sent a briefing on the situation, and it was too exciting to resist. The planet of Cygnus was undergoing an uprising. What started as a farmer's strike quickly boiled over into a full-on revolution. The insurrectionists were not tolerating the UNSC, and multiple cities, including the capital of the planet, were under siege. Lieutenant Schultz and Sergeant Halsey had been sinking days of their lives into the writing, planning, and scripting of the missions. The story was unfolding in real time, and responding to the actions of the players who participated in it. I, alongside my two friends Nam and Brendan, loaded into the server, and we were given Kevlar vests put over our clothes and supplied with film and press equipment to make our jobs easier. We got used to the controls and got our TeamSpeak settings operational before being escorted to the barracks, where the mission briefing was taking place.
All good?
I got you.
The atmosphere was tense.
There you go, gentlemen, the press are here.
Alright, if everyone will open the map real quick, we'll get down to business on planning. It's likely to see elements from the 89th Airborne. If they're going to be attacking these positions in force, I would bet my bottom dollar that they're going to deploy airborne forces on our flanks or our rear.
Most of what they were saying was going over my head, but it definitely sounded bad. We stayed as quiet as we could and made sure to respectfully not get in the way.
I've spoken to Chaos Actual. He's going to have a Hornet in the air for most of the operation to provide light CAS and reconnaissance. To us today, we will also have 2 Pelicans and 2 Hornets available. We'll have 3 82mm mortars and 2 155mm Sholov self-propelled howitzers.
Serious stuff to be sure. Eventually, the Marines began asking questions about their ordnance situation, and I took the opportunity to explore a bit. There was this Oni officer who kept dragging my attention away from the briefing because, frankly, he looked super suspicious. I got a good view of his computer to see what he was typing. Tom Krin. What could it mean? Was this a code to the enemy? I googled it and nothing showed up. So I had Google autocorrect it to Tompkin, to which it showed me this picture of a cowboy man. I didn't have time to ponder on this revelation, because the briefing was over and we were shown outside and taught about what to do in specific combat situations.
A lot of flames that come out the back of this thing, and you're gonna go back extra crispy. So those are the 2 important things. If you hear incoming, get down. If you hear clear back, make sure you're not behind the guy who just said it.
With our safety instructions out of the way, Sergeant Halsey ran off to brief his men, and we were instructed to wait until someone came to pick us up. With nothing to do, we immediately got to breaking Arma's animations in fun and silly ways. We rolled in the mud. We scooted around like dogs on a carpet. It was like a dam burst, and a wave of stupidity had washed over us. We had the maturity of 2nd graders, and it was immensely entertaining. Then, the long shadow of Halsey was cast over us, and we hurriedly jumped to our feet. I've actually got a quick question. What did you see?
Everything.
Red with embarrassment, we followed Halsey to the Pelicans, which was just past the makeshift gym the Marines had set up and multiple armored vehicles. As we approached, the sound of the Pelican engines and Marine chatter grew louder. There was an atmosphere of anticipation, and probably irritation. I assumed each one of those soldiers saw me bumble and fumble my way through basic training, and even unarmed with just a film camera, I could very well be a battlefield liability. I'd have to play it cool and keep a level head.
You're calling in your radio is the perfect time now with your screen.
Fantastic.
Brendan, check that out. One of the Pelicans took off with a squad of Marines to deploy them further up the road, and we would be next.
Make sure you set your team to red. You're with me anyway. Alright, let's go.
It was time for us to board. Last time I was in a Pelican like this, I leapt from the ship and fell to my death. Thankfully, I was being babysat, so no such danger would befall me. We touched down and the Marines began to spread out and head into the woods. We stayed back to check our equipment and then began to sprint off after the troops. As we ran, we talked amongst ourselves about how excited we were. But the atmosphere began to change. You see, there was an ambience that sounded a bit like wind and maybe some thunder. Probably Arma's complex weather systems. But this wasn't the case. These sounds were not natural. It was the soundscape of battle, and it grew louder and louder as we approached the conflict. I watched as a UNSC Hornet flew overhead, dodging anti-air fire. This was getting intense, and we hadn't even seen the enemy yet.
Let's take cover.
The Marine squad we were following showed some wisdom and set up positions behind some trees, calling out insurrectionists that we only briefly saw darting from cover to cover. And soon, the bullets began flying.
We gotta get back, we gotta get back.
They just started coming from all directions. We hit the deck as branches snapped and bark was shredded off of trees. It was only a matter of time until one of us would be hit.
So are you.
Yes or no?
Late night's hit!
Of course it was me. I could hear my heartbeat in my head. Strawberry jam stained my goggles. I needed a medic, but who would risk their life in the thick of all of this? A soldier by the name of Lance Corporal Dom finally broke through the trance I was in, and I crawled after him with my butt firmly clenched in fear.
Okay, it's gonna
Come
be
back
okay.
closer to the We got medics and shit over here who can help you. Okay? We got smoke.
What's front over there?
I know, I need you to give me some wider cover. We'll get Joseph on. So long as you're talking, I need to deal with Wolf. You give me cover. Yeah.
I got here, keep going up.
He got dumped. He's dead.
The Marines had set up a trench. We were surrounded, and I could feel the panic setting in. I was gonna die here, hugging my stupid recording equipment. No Covenant or Banished to teabag in glory. No warthogs to get stuck in small doorways. Just confused screaming. This is when the hospital corpsman dashed to my rescue. He told me to face him and spoke in a calm and collected voice as he applied a tourniquet and patched me up. What a pro. The men took up positions around us, forming a protective circle. They barked out orders above the gunfire and smoke. Bullets still rained everywhere. The other war journalists and I were not prepared for this kind of conflict. We began to crawl away to safety when...
Oh, okay. Oh,
No, not again.
get the fuck out.
That's right. Of all the people, I specifically was hit again. I began crawling back to the Marines, screaming that I was hit again. But they must have been dealing with problems of their own. They were a man down. No checkpoint resets would save this Marine. With what must have been an extreme level of patience, I was patched up again. That's it. This time, I was staying put with my face firmly in the ground. It was too dangerous to move anywhere beyond the little trench the Marines had set up. Bullets began raining all around us, and I, yes, you guessed it, for a third time, my body ate a bullet.
No one tell me I forgot my helmet again.
Thorn is hurt. I've
Not
watched him get
again.
shot in the face.
It wasn't even my fault this time. By this point, the Marines constructed a late-night gaming cage for me. I hid within it, trembling with fear, and an anus so clenched it could crush bricks. It's like I was an Avenger or something. Just my superpower was the ability to get hurt very easily. The sound of gunfire and yelling eventually stopped, and we heard an all clear. Nuh-uh, not for me. I was staying put. It took a bit of coaxing to get me to leave the late-night gaming cage the Marines had set up, and we began moving down the road and eventually sat for a bit as we waited for orders. The sounds of battle still raged in the distance, and we were informed via radio that we had to move towards them. We began to jog up the road to a Pelican pickup, and the Marines told us to board up as they destroyed some insurrectionist munitions. I loaded into the Pelican and sat in silence. Low-res scars and bullet wounds dotted my hands. My fictional mortality was challenged, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Maybe I was in over my head. This was just too much to handle. But then I looked at the Marines around me, who were joking and having a good time. They were skilled and prepared for anything. Their quick thinking kept us safe, and I wouldn't forget that. This was the coolest thing I had ever done in a game. I would carry my camera with pride, but maybe be a little bit safer next time. Once we touched down, we were told to wait in a nearby house due to reports of enemy artillery. Thanks to game logic, buildings were impervious to harm in the world of Arma, so we ran to the house to wait for the all clear. Left to our own devices, we reminisced about the fun times we had, like when I was shot and almost killed 3 times in under 5 minutes. Time began to pass, and we started to grow restless. Were they okay? What was going on out there? Loud booms could be heard, and we would dash from window to window like a bunch of children in a bus, trying to see what the source of the booming was. I eventually saw a group of Marines to the southeast who looked like they were part of another platoon. They seemed to spot us and contacted us via radio. The house was no longer safe, and we needed to go with them.
No, friendly. That red on them is blood.
Yeah, I know. I figured that out watching people get shot.
Over yonder.
Okay, we're gonna go on you.
Raj.
We made our way up the hill and got situated behind some cover. The Marines were dealing with a machine gun encampment down the road, and it was causing them trouble. I tried to see if I could get a better look at the machine gunner, but then... enemy artillery had arrived. A tank was pelting the hill with rounds, and the soldiers began yelling at us to hit the deck so that we didn't get caught in the backblast of their rockets. The tank's rounds were getting closer every second we waited. Each time it fired, the impact was closer and closer. Just a few more shots and it would surely hit us. The Marines yelled out coordinates, and the anti-tank crew prepared the rockets.
You're clear, send it now.
Oh my god. Okay, it's mobile. 1 moment. I don't have a clear shot.
You know where the grid reference is for it right now, Win? Negative.
Moving east to west across that field.
They had just 1 shot. The missile left the tube, and we got up and watched as it soared across the air, and then made contact with the enemy tank.
I'm recording it.
A Hornet was flying overhead, and it confirmed the detonation and began spotting the surviving tank crew who could be easily cleaned up. Victory. It was around this time that it was starting to get late, and I had an early appointment in the morning. So I let Nam and Brendan continue on without me. Nam specifically is editing a part 2 of this from his own perspective, and I'll leave a link down below if you want to see what happened next. The mission was far from over, but they would carry on and document the events of the operation. The 12th Marine Division were fantastic hosts, and I hope their campaign to retake Cygnus goes well. It's still ongoing, and they're always recruiting. I'll leave links to their Discord down below. The work that goes into preparing the missions for these campaigns is incredibly impressive. The love and passion shines through. This took me back to my childhood, participating in Nerf gun wars with the neighborhood kids, imagining that we were part of some kind of large-scale Star Wars conflict. Speaking of Star Wars, I was reached out to by folks of the Star Wars Arma community. The Clone Wars was calling, and I don't think I can resist. But that will be a video for another day. If you found that you enjoyed the video, a like and a subscribe would be appreciated. And I'll see you all later.
Oh no!
Oh shit. Hi.
And on today's lesson in Arma, yoga.